I'm a 34-year-old man, and my relationship with my former fiancée began 6 years ago. I was 28 at the time, and she was 36. My ex had a daughter named Kayla, who was roughly 18 when we first started dating. It took a year before I actually met her. She didn't approve of me, which I understood, considering I was only 10 years older than her. Clearly, I had no desire to assume a stepfather role, and I made sure she was aware of that fact. All Kayla wanted was for us to acknowledge one another as two individuals who deeply cared for her mother and to treat each other with respect. Nevertheless, Kayla utterly despised me and never hesitated to display her hostility, even resorting to calling her mother a cougar. My ex informed me that her daughter was seeing a therapist and had disliked every person she'd dated since the divorce from her ex-husband when Kayla was 7. The situation never got any better. My ex and I eventually decided to live together in a new flat. She insisted that Kayla should move in with us as well, given that she was in college and she wanted to avoid high rent costs. I was fine with this arrangement. Still, Kayla consistently refused to treat me with respect as her mother's partner. Occasionally, my belongings would vanish or be damaged, such as a new watch my ex gave me for my birthday. She completely lost it when we got engaged. The next morning, my car was keyed, and I could only assume who was responsible, since we lived in a place with a private garage only accessible to us. This led to excessive arguments between my fiancé and me, primarily because she wouldn't discipline Kayla. We ended our engagement 3 years ago, and I moved on with my life. It was painful, but ultimately, it became too overwhelming. I learned through Facebook that my former fiancé passed away 9 months ago. Now, Kayla is reaching out, wanting to connect and meet up. Last month, she sent me an apology message and proposed meeting for coffee. Kayla explained that she wants us to become friends since I was so close to her mother, and she believes I could help her navigate what she's currently going through. I thanked her for the apology but stated I wasn't interested in meeting. I had closed that part of my life for a reason and felt it was better to leave it in the past. I was pleased she apologized and admitted her past actions, but I expressed that she must understand why I don't want her in my life anymore. Kayla messaged me multiple times for a while, but I stopped replying after giving my final decision. Then, my ex's mother also contacted me, saying Kayla was distressed and had asked her to speak to me. I gave her the same response, which made her extremely angry. She argued that Kayla is a child who needs comfort and couldn't believe I would abandon her. The mother said she couldn't offer Kayla the same support because she lives abroad, and since I am the person closest to my ex and we can meet regularly, I'm the nearest source of comfort Kayla has. I haven't answered either of their messages, though I still read them when they arrive. I intend to stick by my decision to keep Kayla out of my life after everything that happened. But given that she is grieving her mother's loss, am I being unreasonable for refusing to offer her this support? You are not the unreasonable one. If Kayla was 18 6 years ago, she is currently 24 and is certainly not a child. You have no existing relationship with her, and you owe her nothing. It was kind of you to accept her apology. You did more than was required. You would be completely justified in blocking both her and her grandmother. I seriously doubt that Kayla is purely seeking emotional support. I suspect she is planning to ask you for money. That is the usual reason people who have treated you poorly for years suddenly try to reconnect. She can never fully compensate for repeatedly ruining her mother's final chance at happiness with a new partner. Had her mother still been with you in a different living situation, she might even still be alive. Cut off all contact. Original poster. Yes, losing a mother is awful, particularly in your early or mid-20s, but it seems she utterly detested you and engaged in immature behaviors towards you even as a young adult. When you're 21, damaging someone else's property is both unlawful and a terrible thing to do. I strongly question whether this is genuinely an appeal for emotional help. I am almost certain this Kayla will ask for financial assistance, a place to stay, or something similar, hoping you will step in as a stand-in parent since you were the person closest to her mother. I had the same thought. And perhaps my theory is overly pessimistic, but she might be trying to get back in touch for financial assistance. If that fails, she could potentially resort to malicious tactics, such as threatening to tell people you tried to groom her back then, or some other form of blackmail. This is especially suspicious given she waited 9 months to inform you of the death. I truly can't find a reason why someone who seemingly hated you so intensely would try to contact you when they have their grandmother for emotional support. This smells like a setup. Here is a brief summary of my situation. I'm a 24-year-old male who started dating my 23-year-old girlfriend 3 years ago. I never wanted children, so we always used birth control, but despite our precautions, she became pregnant and gave birth 6 months ago. When she first got pregnant, I explicitly told her that I would not be getting up at night to help with the baby because of my job. I argued that if I had to condition myself to wake up every time he cried, I would never manage to get enough sleep. Therefore, she has consistently been the one handling the night awakenings. Recently, I was temporarily laid off for the winter season. Now that I am home, she is acting as if I should be getting up at night to assist her. I don't feel this is fair because I will encounter the same issue I raised before, waking up when he cries once I return to work. I cannot afford to lose sleep. Now, about the recent incident. My son was particularly unsettled a few nights ago. I happened to wake up while she was getting his feeding chair, as it seemed he would be awake for a while. When she returned, she placed him in our bed, so I scooted closer and held him. It looked like he might actually drift off to sleep. A few minutes later, he started crying uncontrollably. I looked around the room, and my girlfriend was nowhere to be found. I'll admit I became upset. I was tired, and her leaving made me angry. I tend to lash out when I get extremely frustrated. This is where I wonder if I was wrong. I hit myself in the face a few times and said something inappropriate. My girlfriend stormed back upstairs, holding the baby monitor, and declared she had heard and seen everything, calling it unbelievable. I snapped at her that she wouldn't understand the need for sleep when you have a job because she has never worked hard a day in her life. While she hasn't worked as hard as I do at my current job, we did work at 2 other places together before she got pregnant. However, she has been unemployed for over a year, so I believe what I said was justified. In any case, she said she's now unsure if she wants to stay with me and has been giving me the silent treatment for 3 days, despite my apology. Am I being the idiot here? You are absolutely being the idiot. So, she supposedly doesn't grasp what it means to work hard, even though she recently gave birth and has been the sole caregiver for the baby every night. And you, the supposedly hardworking one, refuse to help her because you require your solid, uninterrupted 8 hours of sleep so you can go to work the next day, 7 days a week. And now that you are laid off, you still can't help at night because you'll eventually go back to work someday. Good heavens, you are likely the biggest idiot I have ever encountered. First, most parents both work and take care of their children. You are not some special case who needs sleep more than others. You should attend to your baby when he cries. Second, you are currently unemployed. You have no job to go to. And you still refuse to help. I mean, wow. How dare your wife think her husband should be assisting her with a newborn child? What a horrible woman, right? Your primary concern is that you might become so accustomed to your child's cries that you won't be able to tune them out. Wow, major idiot. I truly hope she leaves you. As far as I can see, she's already raising a child without an active father, but at least she might have the chance to introduce a stepfather later on. Furthermore, saying sorry for neglecting your child for 6 months simply isn't enough. My daughter, who is a young teenager, celebrated her birthday on Saturday morning. We hosted the party in our backyard. For food, we provided pizzas, wings, garlic bread, tortilla chips, guacamole, salsa, pasta salad, and burgers. The drink options included water, sparkling water, and lemonade. The party was going smoothly. One of the mothers, let's call her Lacey, arrived to collect her daughter. She found her child drinking a LaCroix sparkling water. Lacey immediately told her daughter to discard the drink, and then she approached me and asked, "Why are you serving diet products to my children?" I replied that it was just sparkling water. She then completely lost control, yelling that her daughter doesn't need artificial soda replacements. She went on to say, "If I want to give my children eating disorders, I can do that, but you won't do it to her children." I was stunned by her aggressive reaction, as I genuinely felt I hadn't done anything wrong. I pointed out, "Look, I have pizza, wings, and brownies. This is absolutely not a diet party." She then informed me that I had no right to determine what is or isn't a diet product. After that, she and her daughter left. Additionally, she later made a public post on Facebook, "We are not friends," about how some people try to push diet products onto other people's children. For the record, I'm fine with my own children having soda in moderation if they want it, but none of them do. I find the whole thing bizarre. For example, I've never heard anyone claim that flavored sparkling water is an artificial substitute for soda. Also, I didn't mention this to her, but it was especially strange because both she and her daughter were obese. So, it was doubly odd that they were accusing me of trying to cause them to develop eating disorders. Seriously, what? You are not the idiot. What exactly constitutes an artificial soda replacement? That is absurd. What on earth is an artificial substitute for soda? Soda itself is not a natural item. There are no soda trees or natural Coke springs. That would be like calling Dr. Pepper an artificial substitute for Coke. This woman is completely unhinged. You have every right to judge what you consider a diet product or not. More importantly, you have the right to decide what you serve at a party you are hosting. Plus, her daughter chose that drink herself. If she wanted something sugary, she could have opted for the lemonade. This woman was wrong on multiple fronts. I think the obese mother cannot tolerate the idea of her child making healthier choices than she does. How dare the original poster place a LaCroix within the daughter's reach? Why? Because she might like it and ask her mother to buy it. Then the mother feels bad, and she should, because the idea of giving up her corn syrup and high-calorie drink is paramount to her. Not the idiot. Some people are just ridiculous with these over-the-top, hysteria-fueled rants about sugar-free products. Some of us cannot consume sugar of any kind, whether natural or added. Therefore, a thoughtful host should provide an option for them. The girl selected that drink from the available choices. People need to stop automatically viewing any sugar-free item as a diet product. Would they react the same way if you offered a nut-free food choice? Probably not. I'm 19 and currently residing with my mother due to health issues. Despite living under her roof, I am financially self-sufficient and manage all my own affairs. I buy my own groceries and have my own vehicle. Although she doesn't require me to pay rent, I do help her out. I work a lot, which leaves me with some disposable income that I typically spend on food, my dog, or my personal hobbies. I own a significant collection of high-end art supplies, figurines, and cosplay outfits that I saved up for and purchased myself. I come from a rather large family. My mother has 9 siblings, but she is the only one with a stable profession. Most of my aunts and uncles either can't hold down a job or choose not to work, depending on my mother for financial support. As a result, it's not unusual for family members to turn up on our doorstep needing a temporary place to stay. I have always felt they were taking advantage of my mother, but I kept quiet, believing it wasn't my business until recently. Due to the holiday season, my relatives have been visiting much more frequently and have become increasingly demanding. I started noticing that groceries I bought and bathroom products were disappearing. Some of my art materials and figurines were broken because my cousins were playing in my room while I was at work. I raised the issue every time, but they dismissed it, saying I could just replace everything or that they would reimburse me. They never did. These were not minor items, either. Some of the figurines they broke were worth hundreds of dollars, and I would buy full gallons of milk for myself only to find that my cousins had consumed all of it that same evening. They also constantly ask me for money for food or groceries, but then they waste it on other things. The tipping point occurred last night. I successfully passed a difficult exam and decided to reward myself with takeout from my favorite restaurant. I placed my food on the table and went to get a drink, only to come back and find my aunt rummaging through my meal. She asked why there wasn't enough food for everyone, and I explained that it was far too expensive. She called me selfish for only buying food for myself while they were hungry, and I told her she was free to buy her own food if she wanted some. She glared but left the room anyway. She then complained to the rest of the family about how selfish I was. They all began texting and calling me, saying I was heartless and needed to prioritize family. They argued that they are all struggling, and it was unfair for me to spend my money on unnecessary things if I couldn't even help provide dinner. At that moment, I had had enough. I reminded them of every instance they had stolen or broken my possessions without replacing them, and all the money they had borrowed and wasted. I told them I was not their financial provider and needed to focus on my own well-being. I am tired of them exploiting me, and if they want me to care, they can finally repay what they owe. Now, only my mother is speaking to me, and while she is trying to remain neutral on the issue, she wants everyone to reconcile because we're family. I don't see that happening. Am I the one who is wrong here? You are not the idiot. However, I think you should move out to get some peace. Your mother has spent her whole life helping her siblings, only to be taken advantage of. It is doubtful that she will ever change. Therefore, if you want to be free of this, you should find your own place. For the time being, you must install a lock on your bedroom door and prevent your relatives from entering. Additionally, consider buying a mini-fridge for your room. I concur. Original poster, your mother needs to begin setting boundaries with these people. First, you need a way to lock your room so your family members cannot access it. Furthermore, your mother must stop supporting them. They use the idea of family against her and have conditioned her to give them whatever they want. They will continue to take until she is broke, and you will be left to clean up the mess. Your mother is not being neutral, she is enabling their behavior. She has taught them that she should not be respected, and now she is teaching them that you shouldn't be respected either, which means she is siding with them when she should be supporting you. Your mother appears to be codependent. No, you are not obligated to simply tolerate this poor treatment so your mother can feel calm and avoid the conflict she wishes didn't exist. Tell her you will accept their apology in the form of payment for all the loaned money and all the broken and/or stolen items, and only once they find jobs to support themselves and stop living off your mother will you forgive them when they pay what they owed. I'm curious, why were you upset by Matthew's remark but not by your husband's response? You are the idiot. You had never met him before. While I agree the comment was vulgar, perhaps your husband has made similar remarks to him in the past. It would have been more helpful if you had gone to the dinner, met his other friends, and perhaps taken Matthew aside to tell him the joke was unacceptable to you. Oh my goodness, you are angry at Matthew for making a crude joke, yet you aren't upset with your husband for encouraging that kind of behavior. You definitely have a strong double standard. You need to have a serious discussion with your husband if he doesn't understand how offensive that comment was. It's a significant warning sign. You are not the idiot, but I agree. You need to communicate with your husband that you will not tolerate jokes like that from this person. And you need to make it clear that you expect him to firmly stand up to his friends in the future if he is ever foolish enough to make such a joke again. It is possible his friend simply has a tendency to say dumb things, but you will look better if you give him enough space to reveal his true character. Apologies, but everyone is acting like an idiot here. And that's being generous. In fact, I think the most significant mistake was your husband allowing you to walk around unaware that you had a guest. But setting that aside, people sometimes make bad jokes that aren't funny and end up regretting them. Unfortunately, that happens. You don't know if he's a decent person who said something thoughtless or a genuine jerk, because you immediately decided to cut off contact with someone you've barely met. You are isolating yourself from an entire group because of this and embarrassing your husband. What do you hope to achieve? Not that your husband didn't deserve some pushback, but still.